I find this so annoying and so many different content creators that I've watched. Can you hear me? Oh yes. Um, just a lot of different things. So for one, I wanted to talk about, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about one other thing but I guess I'll talk about that in the next video. But I am a little tired and I've been feeling sick all day. So bear with me, I'm sorry. But I did want to do these videos, so I'm gonna do them. It's very of, I think she's like one of the biggest ones, if I'm not mistaken. There might be a few others out there, but she's well known to talk about a lot of colorism issues. And I find it so weird, some of the things people imply on many colorism platforms. Like, for one, I constantly see people who like to separate, you know, black people based off skin tone and things of that nature, and saying, like, for example, they shouldn't really see themselves in someone lighter than them or darker than them. And I find it really weird that people think this way when it's like many of the time they'll talk about other people's perspectives on, dark skin and light skin people while not being able to have that perspective themselves because they're not light skinned women or brown skinned women or, the men that they kind of like talk about as well. Even though honestly, with the men at least, with dark skinned men, at least they have some close association with, because I mean they are dark skinned themselves. And honestly, the colorism movement to me is a good idea of many people's like ideas and how they work basically and how they see their own dark skin to me. I don't really feel like the colorism movement has anything to do with how people are treated, for one. I mean, honestly, as a person who has darker skin many of the time through tanning and things of that nature, I can say for myself, I've never felt like I experienced any kind of colorism in any respect. Honestly, I would say sometimes I experienced it the other way around, maybe, but not with being darker skinned one bit. Um, I find it weird. Like, I was watching this one video. They were saying that light skinned women don't see themselves in darker skinned women, yet they see themselves in lighter skinned women. And that made me just confused. Like, how do you know what light skinned people see themselves in? Like, you don't know how they see things because you're not a light skinned woman. I wouldn't even deign to say how they feel about darker skin. I mean, honestly, to me, that's just like, their perspective. I don't understand why on these um, platforms they speak for lighter skinned women, but they never actually speak to lighter skinned women to get a perspective. Instead, they assume what they're thinking and how they feel and their preferences. And it's annoying for me because, like, so many of the time, like I said, with colorism platforms, they kind of like talk about how, they get an advantage in this way or that way. But they don't even really know if they get an advantage because they don't have that experience, you know, with being lighter skin. So they don't really know what the experience is like. Oh, hi, exquisite. What was that? I like both versions, darker and than dark and lighter than light. Oh, you like the extremes? Well, that's great. Yeah, I just came across a video and they're just talking a lot about, different ways to divide black people basically and black women and like they were saying like you shouldn't see like different characters, black people in the media and things of that nature as yourself because they don't have your exact complexion. And as someone who honestly isn't dark skinned, and I'm not the lightest skinned person either, I would say I never, ever just look to someone's skin tone to see if I'm going to find them relatable. I mean, towards dark skinned women, we would be considered colorist. Am I having a problem? Oh, no, I guess not. Okay, great. They see uplifting dark skin as a fake kind of move to uplift something that's down, in their opinion. Like, they don't think that dark skin is really ideal, they just pretend it is. That's how I feel. And that's sad because they shouldn't feel that way. That's why they kind of like uplift it too much to the point where they're putting it where other people can't uplift themselves. Because if they do, they feel kind of like insecure about it. And why do they feel insecure? Is because they feel like if other people uplift themselves, eventually they're going to feel the same way as those people feel. Personally, I've never felt insecure about white people, for example, embracing who they are. And I've never felt that way about dark skinned people embracing who they are. Not really. Oh, what are you saying? Exquisite? You need to have other tones in the combo. Well, honestly, personally for me, I kind of actually, I mean, I don't know. From my point of view, I don't really have a side either way. Like, I don't side with light skinned people because, and I don't really side with dark skinned people. But honestly, like, from my point of view, like, I kind of would say I have some experiences for dark skinned people because I lift dark skinned people more than themselves. Why not though? Why not what? Exquisite. Yeah, I agree with you, emancipation. They definitely do. Um, it's like I'm choosing. No, I don't choose either side, honestly. Like, I don't know why we would choose anything really. I just feel like I'm more of the type that has an opinion that is not in favor of either side. It's kind of like I want both sides to uplift themselves. I guess because personally for me, I don't feel like if you uplift light skin only, it doesn't do any good, you know? And if you uplift dark skin only, it doesn't do any good. Honestly, most black women aren't even dark or light skinned. Most of us are brown skinned. Yeah, I understand that. Emancipation. There is like some sense of, in my opinion, it kind of is weird to me. I don't understand why people like to divide people so much and try and act like, just because they feel like they were having it where lighter skinned people were put on a higher level or whatever. Now they want to put someone else up. It's not healthy for black people either way because we're all black. And I understand some people like to even try and assert that lighter skinned people aren't black. But even if you did that, it would be really dumb because most people aren't dark skinned either. So what are we going to do then? I mean, like, people act like most people aren't light skinned, but most people aren't dark skinned. Are we saying dark skinned people, what? Like, we shouldn't have some kind of representation for them either? I mean, that wouldn't be right. I think we should embrace all sides, We should embrace dark skin, brown skin, light skin, all people, all black people, because all black people are beautiful in their own way. Yeah, I don't know. For me, I don't really experience that honestly with the whole brown skin women are silenced too. They will pull them down in the dark, pull them in the dark category when convenient. I don't generally experience that personally. Um, but I do experience. I kind of and they don't make you feel badly because they're too busy talking about light skin biracials. Like for example, people will bring up people like Nicki Minaj, Rihanna, um, who else? Beyonce, definitely Beyonce, and talk about colorism in those regards and say they got benefit from it. But at the same time, many of the time, if we're not really focused, in my opinion, no, I don't know who's Nia Long. I don't really know who that is. I I could Google her though. I think a while ago, maybe a year ago or something. But yeah, I don't know what her complexion is. But yeah, in the black community, I notice a lot of the time with these kind of colorism platforms, they ignore a lot of things. Like, for example, with the whole thing of saying like that they need to be like separate, like light skinned women that you can't see their image and things of that nature in you and vice versa, they forget about the whole fact, like they totally ignore the fact that in society generally, we all get confused for each other. So quite obviously, I mean, like if we were really like trying to say that they were different than the rest of us, or however we're going to split this stuff up, then we would basically be at a point where we're basically trying to see ourselves as different from another people that most everyone else sees a part of us, you know? Like white people, for example, often will confuse someone like a Paula Patton with someone who's like a Gabrielle Union or something. A lot of light skinned people and dark skinned people are generally, confused for each other. I mean, I've seen so many times people like Halle Berry confused for like a Kelly Rowland, like often. And I'm like, this in part to me is another reason why I've always thought when they complain about like colorism and stuff, it makes no sense to me because it's like if colorism really existed, then people would be able to recognize biracials and light skinned people from dark skinned black people, but yet they can't. I mean, how can anyone discriminate against anyone if they can't even tell the difference? Oh, more comments. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll look her up later on, I guess. My laptop's down right now. Sorry. I don't know that movie. No. What is that? Boys in the Hood. Lots of Hollywood actresses are brown, but dark women will say they are dark. Yeah, I think I've heard Angela Bassett is called a safe brown on some channels, on some colorism channels. I'm not sure. Sometimes people call her dark skin, some call her brown. I I don't know. I have a hard time telling what's brown and what's dark skin, so I mean, for me personally, I don't really pay attention to those things, really. But um I don't know. I do know that sometimes, brown-skinned women, I think my mother is brown-skinned, actually, honestly, because my mother is she's about the same color as like I guess Kiki Palmer. And my mother taught me that colorism didn't exist. She didn't experience any colorism or anything of that nature. But I've seen some dark skinned people who will admit colorism doesn't exist as well. So I don't know. Is it because she was lighter, maybe, than average dark skinned person? Or was it because, some people who look a little like, I think I think sometimes it has to do with your phenotype, honestly, and attractiveness. Why some people claim there's colorism and some people don't. Like my mother, for example, she was never told that she was pretty for a dark skinned girl. Um, she always got that she was beautiful from like all races and all genders and just, all around the gamut, basically, she was considered very beautiful. So, I mean, I don't know, like some people, I think, may have other struggles and may assume that it has to do with colorism, which I don't know. To me, I don't, I don't really think that I never experienced anything of what people talk about with colorism and stuff. So, Yeah, I know. I've heard like I said, some people like watched colorism videos with brown-skinned women, and many of the time they don't seem to talk much about colorism being an issue. Now, sometimes people will say they dealt with some kind of ignorance from somebody, and I must say personally, that's the only kind of colorism I've ever seen was like from ignorant people, but I never understood like why it really matters. Like usually the people who were negative were dark skinned and they were very ignorant. So to me, that really didn't count for anything because one, they were dark skinned themselves, and I mean, secondarily, they're very ignorant. So, I mean, and plus, it didn't seem like it affected anything. It just seemed like it was an ignorant person, just, you know, saying some negative things about someone. Okay, hopefully I'm good. They were talking about black men and how, you know, they associated certain things with being mixed race, and if they're upset, they would associate them with being black, and how they felt they internalized that as black women. And to me, I'm just like, that in itself is very closely tied into the colorism problem, in my opinion. It's not about, you know, it's not about lighter skinned people and what they do or what brown skinned women do. It's more about what, dark skinned women and men do, in my opinion. The reason I think it's more about what they do is because it's like this is the thought process that they have, you know? This is the thought process where they think black is bad and mixed is better. And the reason they think that is because they have an internalized hate towards their darker skin tone. Now, that has nothing to do with, I don't think colorism or how mixed people or light skinned people are doing anything to affect that. I don't think. I think that's an internalized issue. And I don't think trying to assert that these people are different and basically just creating a delusion that, lighter is not the same as darker skin people is going to really do anything for you. And, whether you see a light skinned person to be the same race as you when they obviously are, especially some people would even associate some of the light skinned black people as biracials, which was just crazy in my opinion, because it was like, you know, basically based in ignorance. So that's why I feel like a lot of people don't really want to address the real problems that a lot of people seem to, have. Oh, another comment. Shoot, I didn't see that. Oh, I see it now. Okay. That's what I mean. You are going off your opinion, only no actual facts. Okay, explain. What do you mean? I'm not judging, no. I'm just observing, basically. I just think, like I said, I think that people need to actually deal with the problems from within rather than looking outwardly. I feel like a lot of people feel hurt from whatever happened to them in the past concerning their phenotype. And I feel like it's one thing to, embrace yourself, but you don't have to take anyone else down while you are trying to embrace yourself. So, like I said, I'm not trying to put anyone down specifically. I just think that the way people handle it is just not proper because you're constantly ignoring the problem at hand. Often, like I said, with colorism, from what I've seen, from what I've heard from other people, it seems like a lot of the time colorism is perpetuated by a lot of dark skinned people. So, I mean, like, if that's a problem from within, don't you have to fix whatever's going on within rather than focus on another people? Like, if they're not the ones doing that? Yeah, people have preferences, and that's right. I am all for people's preferences, but I wasn't actually talking about preferences. I'm talking more about, like I said, one video I saw where, actually, two videos I saw, where they were specifically saying that basically light skinned biracial women were different from dark skinned black women and that people shouldn't see them as the same thing. And that's more so what I'm addressing. Yes, light skin, dark skin. I don't really get what that was supposed to mean. But yeah, to me, I just think it goes back to self hate and association, with black being bad, which is, like I said, I don't think that really has to do with the existence of light skinned black people. Also, I wanted to address how black colorism channels seem to speak for everyone when they haven't even spoken to everyone. Like, to me, I think it's weird. Like, they'll say, like, how someone, like, how light skinned people, like I said, see certain things or what's a privilege. I mean, if you say that you don't even have the privilege, how do you know it's a privilege? You haven't even experienced it for yourself, so how do you even know that's even a privilege? Nobody should be treated anything less than human. Everybody, I mean. I didn't really get what you meant there. Everybody should, yeah, everybody should be treated well. Yeah, I think, like I said, all shades matter, in my opinion. But I also think that on colorism perspectives, it should be about everybody's perspective, not just dark skinned black people's perspective, especially when you can't say how someone else experiences life when you've never experienced life as those people. Often I find it with these colorism platforms, they often tell everyone how they're supposed to experience their lives, which is so weird. Because I mean, like, you can't even tell how another dark skinned person is going to experience colorism or whatever kind of experience you expect them to experience. Because they're not you. No two individuals have the same experience. Honestly, about me, like I said, I am technically, I am, but I can kind of because I experience life as a darker skinned person. So I do. Like I said, I can tan and I am actually, I'm not light skinned. I'm more like light brown. Like I never claimed to have the experience of someone who is a yellow bone. In my opinion, I've always said their experience is something specifically different from mine, and I don't claim to speak for them. But as far as dark skinned people, kinda, yeah, I can. That's a other thing. Dark skinned people can never be brown skinned people, they can't be light brown skinned people, and they can't be light skinned people. They can't experience life that way. But the other way around, yes, we can, as much as we can tan. So technically, yes, I have. Yes, and red bones get dirty red, which is brown skinned, which honestly, you can actually get darker than that if you're in Vegas, which is where I am. So I can get very dark skinned in the summer. I can, well, not very dark skinned, like dark skinned. I think I could get as dark as Gabrielle Union. I'm not sure. Like Kiki Palmer, maybe. I don't know. I can get dark skin. I can get very dark. Um, but then I can get like Halle Berry's color too. So yeah. I'm not judging. Brett Anderson. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even see your comment there. I can say if you look at music videos, there's preference for light-skinned women in videos because they're considered more beautiful. Yeah, but that's another thing, Brett Anderson. Do you think that the light-skinned girls put themselves there? No, they didn't. Who put them there? It's darker skinned people. So is it really light-skinned women's fault? No, it really isn't. It's actually the other people. And you have to think if the darker skinned people did this, then that's why I'm saying colorism relates and goes right back to darker skinned people who internalized it. So it's not really colorism. The issue is people accepting their skin tone, in my opinion. Um, exquisite, I've said a lot of things, so I can't like rewind what I said, but I don't know. I'm just basically sharing my experience and sharing what I think about that video that I watched. So men should be able to like what they like. Yes, emancipation. I definitely agree with that. Oh, okay. Well, welcome, Brett Anderson. So there was also one other thing I wanted to talk about was this also kind of comes back to what I was watching and also back to like colorism as far as dating preferences and things of that nature. Um, I find it weird because people on the colorism like platforms often act like, you know, that the prize is like darker skinned black men. And it's always like weird to me because it's like, now I don't get why people always act like it's it's basically a prize for lighter skinned women, but like darker skinned women kind of see everything, like I said, they see everything through their lens where they see like they should be the prize, men should be the prize, and everyone should look to them as the ideal thing. And it's just weird to me as someone who's a little bit lighter. I just feel like, why should someone have to see everything as like ideal in their own eyes? Like, that's kind of very egotistical, honestly. And oh, right here, I forgot about this. Aggressiveness, I kind of feel like in like the Black community, as far as like dark skin, people always associate that with darker skin. But this is a great example of how I feel darker skinned people internalize this as well. And when I say that, I'm talking specifically about colorism platforms, where I'm literally hearing this on their platforms, where they associate masculinity and aggressiveness and basically kind of animalistic instincts with dark skin. And they always act like it's a negative thing for them and a positive thing for Black men. And I honestly think that it seems like, honestly, I feel like when people internalize that and think that they are allowed to be more aggressive and allowed to be more, violent, it causes a lot of issues because basically they try to excuse really bad and negative behavior. And I feel like this is another thing with colorism that is a problem because, oh, someone commented. Exquisite, I am actually commenting on a video that I literally just watched. And she was saying this is what she thought of darker skin. You can watch the video yourself. It's on the that one was from the lady who's a really, really, really big content creator for dark skinned women and colorism. So, I mean, you could see it yourself. I didn't say it. I'm just commenting on it. Yeah, I honestly, like I said, exquisite, I can actually get dark skinned in the summer, so technically, yes, I do have dark skin sometimes. And I've experienced life as a dark skinned woman, so. But going back to what I was saying about aggressiveness, I feel like often with like that kind of thought process where they associate aggressiveness and um, that kind of behavior where you accept not being able to basically control yourself to some level is the reason for why a lot of people claim there's a lot of colorism, like in sentencing, for example. And it's like, if it was really about colorism, then we would see this across the board, really. But I feel like mostly we're not focusing on the fact that if someone thinks they're more aggressive than another person and that it's more acceptable for them to be of that nature where they can't control themselves as much, then they might commit crimes and be more at a level that is a little more out of control than someone who thinks they can control themselves. Oh, there's more comments. I'm sorry. There's a lot of comments today. Sunday. Exquisite magazine. Okay, but all I'm hearing you say is opinions, but no actual facts. Well, I was actually just addressing the statistics on um colorism when it came to sentencing. And I'm just like, I think that's a major thing that people don't focus on is that, like, when you talk to darker skinned people, they associate aggressiveness, masculinity, and being harder on to their dark skin. So if they associate those two things together, then they think it's more acceptable for them to behave in those ways. If they're basically accepting that inside themselves, then they were less likely to control themselves. So that's why I feel like, you know, I don't think colorism has to do with sentencing. I think it has to do with the perception of the person committing the offenses and how they perceive themselves. I guess no one wants you to speak for light people, but dark women can. Yeah, exactly, emancipation. I mean, like, often, like I said, on these colorism platforms, you often find that people who are, you know, on these platforms, they never speak to anyone who is actually lighter skinned. They don't. They only give their own perspective and talk about dark skinned people. And they don't even talk to dark skinned people who have a different opinion than them or a different experience than them. They don't. If they hear somebody who is dark skinned and doesn't experience colorism, then they shut them down and try and act like, oh, your experience doesn't matter. Don't um, talk about your experience because it's actually taking down my experience and it's basically trying to make me invisible. Well, why are you trying to make them invisible? Like they have an experience, they have a voice, they have an opinion. Why doesn't their experience matter? So that's one thing I just don't agree with on the colorism side of things. It's just I just don't appreciate that. Oh, and another comment, I'm sorry. I think there's a deep hurt and resentment from not being what the society values as attractive, beautiful. That has to cut deep, even more so for women. But honestly, if you really think of that, I don't think that just applies to dark-skinned people. Dark-skinned women always try and act like they're the biggest victims with this, but honestly, I think women of color have that problem. You really think that someone who is like Halle Berry, a mixed race person who's brown skinned, is going to be on the same level as someone who's like a Taylor Swift, who's blonde, blue eyed, and actually, a white person? No. White women have always been put on the top for the pedestal of beauty. That's the standard. And I mean, in a society, usually the majority is put as the standard to beauty, and white people are the majority. So I don't even have an issue with that, honestly. I mean, like, you have to learn and understand to be comfortable with yourself, to not be uncomfortable with other people being celebrated. You know what I mean? Like, if you're comfortable with yourself, you won't really care. Personally, I don't care. Like, I don't mind when white people are embracing their beauty, and I don't mind when dark-skinned black people are embracing their beauty. I don't care when light-skinned people are embracing their beauty. I don't care when brown-skinned women are embracing their beauty, and I certainly don't care when caramel women embrace our beauty. So that's just how I see it, you know. Also, I kind of felt like with the whole aggressive part of it, there's just one other thing I wanted to address because, like, on this content creators um video, she kept trying to act like, you know, the image of a dark-skinned, dangerous. I should though. I should what? Exquisite. Emancipation. Also, light women got to deal with other light-skinned people savoring for others while throwing us under the bus. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't even really understand the term for light-skinned saviors. Oh, the video that I'm commenting about. Oh, that was just it's a content creator. I don't know. Okay, I'll turn on the laptop and try and look for it right now. Oh, actually, no, it's not been charging. I thought it was charging. Uh, but as far as light-skinned women, savoring for dark-skinned women, I think they do that as a way of survival, basically. And, you know, I think honestly, in this time, a lot of other people do a lot of savoring. Like, not just light skinned people, some brown skinned people as well. Um, I think it's because of dealing with reverse racism and reverse colorism, you kind of feel like you have to go about this some way. I mean, do you really want to be an outcast? And a lot of people don't want to be. So they try their best to be as acceptable as they can. And obviously, I mean, like, if you can't make yourself dark skinned, you're gonna try and do what you can. I'm trying to look for my history to tell you what video it was. Um, for some reason I can't find it. No. Oh, it's about mixed women and roles or something like that nature. Claiming mixed women. Oh, yeah, I see that a lot too, sometimes. But another thing that I saw, like I said, was just like the idea of masculinity being like basically this more dangerous image that was just like not not really a great depiction of masculinity in my opinion. At least for any woman who's looking for like a good man. But I don't know. That was just a side note that was kind of like a little questionable to me. And lastly, I feel like culturally, people who are from a different, you know, background, like people who are from like the Caribbean and things of that nature often have a different view on, dark skin and light skinned people. And I think that's why they often don't appreciate, being inclusive, really, and, how Black Americans are, where we have a large variation of different phenotypes for Black people. But I just feel like a lot of the time with like other cultures and like the Caribbean and stuff, they seem to have more of a divisive view, and maybe they can afford to when the majority is Black. Maybe you can afford to in those cases. But as we are already a minority. So to me, I never understood why it should be so acceptable to be so exclusive, especially when, like I said, among Black Americans, we're already mixed. So when we have children, we might have children that look more like, you know, lighter skinned Black people who might look biracial or whatever, or people who are darker skinned. So, I mean, I just think we shouldn't be divided. We should really be united. Oh, and hi, Major Jungle Beats. Well, that's all I have to say on that. Um, Thanks for listening and have a great day. Bye. But I will make another video.